Hi there. Welcome to this week's episode of the podcast with me, Russell Davis. This week, we're looking at the state of belonging, the feeling of belonging. So many of my clients feel like they don't belong in some way, and I can relate to that. Much of my life, I didn't feel like I truly belonged. Many of my clients, like me, were chasing belonging through achievement. I truly believed once we had a family, I feel like I belong in this world. So what is a feeling of belonging? What stops us feeling like we belong? How can we stop chasing belonging from the outside in and realize it's a place to come home to within us? It's a birthright. Let's dive in and find out. I want to talk about a state of belonging. Much of my life, I didn't feel like I belonged. I went to a selective comprehensive school, but I didn't get in. I needed a recommendation from my primary school teacher, and I didn't get one. So my parents appealed. My mum was determined. I went to this academic school, and then I got a place. But I feel like I didn't truly deserve to be there. The reality that was, I was probably in the top 30% of performance while being at the school, but I really unconsciously felt I had to work harder than everyone else. I didn't really feel like I truly fitted in. I was in all sorts of social circles. I played football. I was very musical. But I always felt I was on the fringe of these groups. Didn't really fully belong in any of them. I didn't really feel like I found my tribe. Then interestingly, I went to university and I missed my preferred course by 1 grade, and my school appealed to university, and they decided to extend the number of students from 70 to 75, and they offered me a place. I always felt I was in the bottom 5. In reality, that wasn't the case, but unconsciously I built up this story that I wasn't good enough. I didn't truly belong. There'd been a drip feed of messages all my life from different situations I interpreted as reinforcing that story. So going through to adulthood, I was a people pleaser, trying to prove my worth. I belonged, earn a state of belonging. I didn't really feel accepted or loved for who I was, and I craved that. I craved to feel accepted and loved for who I was. I grew up in a very Anglo-Catholic environment, a church that talked about a God of love, that also talked about all these conditions, all these things you had to do to be loved. There was an undercurrent of original sin, that you had to repent to be loved, rather than actually know you're born loved. You are loved. Your essence is love. And the mum was very strict and quite unpredictable. And I felt I had to earn her love, prove myself. So she was pleased with me, so I felt more loved. So we grow with these expectations around us, other people's stuff, whether it's the system, the education system, or our parents' insecurity and fears, and everything they do is motivated by love. They're not perfect. They have their stuff. And as a kid, we don't realise that. And as a kid, the remaining part of our brain is quite dominant. It's the part of our brain that thinks our survival is dependent on being part of a pack, just like mammals in the wild. We think our survival is dependent on being liked, being accepted, belonging. And our emotional intelligence, the cortex, the human brain, is not fully developed to later teenage years. Later teenage years, we develop more of a wider emotional intelligence, begin to realise actually this is not our stuff. But by then, it's become an unconscious habit. Which is why as an adult, we have part of us that gets frustrated with another part of us, that continues maybe to feel insecure because the part of us knows it's not necessary, but there's a part of us still does it. It's an unconscious, innocent habit. So I grew up being a people pleaser, trying to earn love, trying to earn acceptance, craving to be loved for who I was. And I distinctly remember a time I really felt unconditional love, deep unconditional love. And I was expecting to feel like a hug. I wanted to be hugged. Maybe I wasn't hugged very much by my parents growing up, but I wanted to feel hugged by the energy of life, God, the universe, the divine, whatever words you want to put to it. It's very hard to comprehend something so formless in a world of form in our human brain. But I do believe that energy of life is kind and loving. And I wanted to feel that love and acceptance. For many years, my busy mind was stopping me feeling anything beyond myself, beyond my own thinking. My heart was closed, constantly trying to protect my heart from rejection, constantly thinking about what things I needed to do to feel safe, constantly protecting my heart, fear rejection. I learned to let go of my thinking, see through the illusion of thoughts, and have a quieter mind. My heart began to open. I could receive love. I could feel love. I could feel love from this energy of life. And it really struck. The first time I really experienced that, it didn't feel like being hugged by this external energy. It was self-compassion. It was self-compassion. It was love for myself. Then I realized how hard I was on myself. Even unconsciously, I tried to be perfect, to know everything and not be caught out and be judged as not good enough. These high standards I put on myself was exhausting. And in that moment, I could have self-compassion for myself, that I was lovable for who I was, even though I made mistakes. I hurt people. I let people down. I made mistakes. I'm not human. The part of me that I ignored or didn't want to accept, that's lovable as well. I'm human. I'm loved for who I am. And it started with me loving myself, being kinder to myself, having more compassion. And the more I did that, my heart opened to realize I am loved and accepted. I could see through the illusion of these stories that built up over time. There were times I still felt fearful. My habits kicked in of interpreting things the way that I've always interpreted them. But gradually I could see those habits for what they are. I could stop that train of thoughts and come back to the truth of who I am. I realized the fear of other people's judgments, trying to prove myself and avoid a negative judgment to get a positive validation from them, wasn't about their judgment of me. It was my judgment of myself. The more I accepted I was loved for who I am, the less fearful I was of other people's judgment. And for me, it's about claiming our birthright. We come into the world perfect, pure. Our soul is a unique expression of the energy of life, of spirit. And it's realizing that's the truth of who we are. That's the us before we develop these stories. We develop this way of thinking about ourselves, our ego. And it's coming back to that truth of who we are. A place we may touch in the moments of quiet. Coming back to realizing we're not who we think we are. We're not our thoughts and feelings. There's something beyond that. The part of us that is aware of our thoughts and feelings. It's constant. It's loving. It's kind. It's compassionate. That's the truth of who we are. To claim our place in this tribe. Our birthright. Our birthright. I remember a coach that he felt inspired to coach a celebrity. As a comedian, he just felt he wanted to reach out somehow and support this individual in some way. He had no connection to him, didn't have any celebrity friends, but just on his heart, he wanted to find a way of reaching out and see where they can serve him. And he went to one of his gigs. And at the end, the guy came off the stage, came down, and went through a door right next to where this coach was sitting. This coach was sitting at the end of the aisle. He went through this door. There was no sign on the door saying no entry or private, or there was no security on the door. Nothing, just a door. And the thought occurred to him, I could go through that door. I might get an opportunity to speak to him. I might get an opportunity to speak to him. But he didn't. He didn't. And when he was telling a friend about this later, his friend said, that's the difference between you and me. You think, who am I to go through that door? I think, who am I not to go through that door? His friend thinks, why can't I go through that? Doesn't say no entry. He's no more important to me. I'm just a fellow human being. And maybe there are security behind the door that turn away. That's okay. But it's interesting, that door, no security, no label. And the coach thought, who am I to go through there? I can't go through there. And his friend said, well, who am I not to go through there? Where do we put ourselves down? Where do we think, who am I to do this? Where do we see ourselves as maybe a second-class citizen, or not fully worthy, not fully accepted in this tribe? We all come into the world pure, perfect, unique. That's who we are. When was the last time you did a baby and thought they weren't good enough? That's our essence. We're all this energy of life. Sometimes I say that we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. We're one spiritual being having 9 billion human experiences. We're all made of the same energy of life, that's loving, kind. That's the essence of who we are, below the noise of thoughts and feelings, humanness. Who are you not to do those things you crave to do in your heart? Who are you not to speak your truth? Express yourself freely. The more we do that, we give other people permission to do the same. I think what an amazing world that would be. Loving you.